So, plenty of light because the sun's decided to come in, so hopefully you can see all this without too much glare going on. Basically, this is the standard 8-valve engine mount. I'm just checking on that. Yeah, it's just a bit glary. Anyway, I painted it because I thought, yeah, that'll fit fine, and was a bit naive, really. Now, on initial look, other than obviously that one's a bit dirty, they look pretty similar. However, the differences, if you look a little bit closer, are there. So basically these two sets of holes are just a little bit closer on this mount, and that's despite the fact that the 16-valve head is taller than actually the mounting holes are closer. It's pretty crucial, these 4 holes, so you can't just start drilling and cutting stuff up. Well, you could, I suppose, but I don't fancy doing that. So we found this. This is of a Scudo or a Vitara HDI. Has the 3 holes in the top, not the 4 as some do, because the 306 top mount looks like this, has 3 holes in the top. Now, there's an issue we're going to have to deal with the 15 degrees later. I'm sensing making a little spacer top and bottom just to tip that back 15 degrees. However, before we even start worrying about that, well, this will bolt to the engine with a little bit of grinding on here, which we're going to do in a little moment. These don't fit either. So the first 2 major mods got to be done is to grind that off, so this will bolt to the actual physical engine in the head, and I'll show that in a second. And then the second one is, now this front hole is our good hole, so we're going to line that one up there. Now you'll notice rather obviously that stuff doesn't really line up, so let's just see if we can show you that. We'll block a bit of sunlight out and show you. So that hole there lines up fine. And we obviously don't want to cock this off to one side like that, because whilst that might almost line up, the mount then is kind of not lined up, engine to chassis. So we've got to use these 2 as our set piece. So this hole will be extended slightly that way to fit with that hole there, and then we'll talk about this one in a second, but it's going to take a bit of work just to get that going. So a bit of butchery, but engineering butchery, so that we don't enlarge a hole too big, we still make this all usable. I thought I had 2 of these, but I don't. I must have chucked the other one away stupidly, so I'm going to have to make do with that one, because I'm going to have to chop it and weld it as well, possibly, so that'll be fun. Okay, let's get on. So the first thing is to grind a little bit off here, and I'm going to show you why. Okay, so we're just going to show you why all this 16-valve mount don't quite fit. So it kind of almost lines up with the holes, but I need to tip it forward a little bit. I can't do that because that leading edge there on the mount touches the mount that holds the pump. So I'm going to have to grind a bit of that off. So we're going to grind a bit of that off now and hopefully make it fit again. Okay, here's the mount that we've just been thrashing on. So all 4 bolts now screw in nicely. So we'll just take those out and show you how much we've had to remove for that clearance issue. Just do that now. Threads just need cleaning a little bit. It's not a great deal, but there it is. I mean, well, is it a great deal? Yeah, it's a fair chunk, to be honest. But hopefully we've left enough structural integrity in there. But we could have obviously taken off the mount as well there, off the pump, but that's what we've decided to do because I've timed it up. In hindsight, I probably would have taken a bit off both, but here I am at that point. So the next thing to do is hopefully get this hole in line with this one on the 306 mount. So that will involve reaming this out a little bit. Now, someone said to me these are cast iron, not cast alley. Well, they seem the same to me. No magnetic going on there, so I think this is alley. I'm quite sure. It's very, very light. So there's no way I'm welding that. So we might have to come up with another solution for our 3rd hole, but we'll get that 2nd hole lined up first. We might have to sell it to Alex, who you're going to hear more about. Alex, my weld king. He will be available for business. I'll make a comment about that somewhere so that you can find him, or you just message me. He'd do any type of welding you need. He's been fixing up the alley air conditioning pipes for me, which is quite impressive. Anyway, that's a side point. So now we need to try and ream this out a little bit so it'll line up with this 2nd hole here, and then we'll worry about this 3rd one when I've had a cup of tea. Here we have the mount that I've been working on for the past 20 minutes or so. Initially it doesn't look that different, unless you can obviously spy the bigger hole here. So what I've done from above is we've accentuated this hole, so let's get the bolt out the way. So we can show you. We've accentuated the hole, well, accentuated, massively enlarged, but lengthened this way. There we go. And then I've kind of milled, I've used a die grind piece and cut into the frame of the main sort of mount. I think it looks quite OEM, just that obviously the bolt that's going in sits flush still. Can you see that? So nice and flush with the edge there, so that's cut nicely neat round there. And then if we take the other one off, which is the one sort of that's still in its original position and probably going to be holding most of the weight, I can show you the rest of the mount. So let's take a very small lip off here. Guided the mount in originally and probably was quite useful, but there we go. We've had to take it off because that overlaps it. So it fits perfectly on that one and then slots lovely on that one, and the reason being is not only is it milled out, it's not cleaned off yet, so this is not the finished product, but hopefully you can see that lip that I've cut inside there, because obviously there's these dowels here. Now we look on the proper one, you can see the lip, nicely done obviously by the original manufacturer, and my rough version on this side. There we go, that's a better view, you can see all the filings inside, but you can see I've cut in there a little lip so that it'll sit on that other dowel. I wanted to try and keep that dowel. I could have obviously just cut it off, but I wanted to keep it, so that's a nice firm position. So what I'm going to do now is bolt this up to the engine and see what we're fouling at this end. As you can see, we have a pretty bad miss. I've got a couple of options for that, and I'm going to explore them next. Here we have the mount I've just shown you, that we've modified quite extensively with the Dremel, and here's the mount all bolted up now, and you can hopefully just see down there how little clearance we got. Now, the 306 mount slots on that one, but we can't quite line it up with that one because it fouls the head. Fouls the head down in that corner there. I don't know if you can see that, the light's pretty poor. Down in that corner here. So, I'm just going to give that a rub and a shake. And we might be fortunate enough that the head will mark the mount, which it does. You see that just shiny polished edge? So we'll grind at that a little bit until that matches up. I realised on the head here there's just a bit of webbing, and it's not really significant. As you can see, it's about 1/2 mil thick, so we took a little bit off the mount, as you can see, and we took a little bit off the webbing, and that now mounts up just great. So we can put those two bolts in now, if I'm clever enough to hold my knee. Right, just to show you in position. So, we're left with two issues. One, this is now holding at 15 degrees, not 30, but we'll sort that out this end on the car. Two, we've only got two bolts here. We definitely want the third bolt. Kinda doesn't match up. Now, initially I thought, we'll cut this one off, because this is in a slightly different position. Cut that one off and we'll move it back a little bit, and get it welded on by my Weld King Alex. But as you can see, there's no room back there to move it backwards into position. So we're left with, well, as far as I can see, two options. One, I cut that out and we put a big washer in. I'm tempted, I've got to admit, I am 95% tempted at this point. Cash is run out and sending stuff and returning it and everything. Two, sending it off to my Weld King. He'll chop it, he'll do something special with that and enlarge the hole and weld it up. I'm going to send a picture to him, see what he thinks, and we'll go from there. But it's a big sort of piece done there, and now what we can do, we've been trimming already the trims. Got the 8 valve trim at the bottom and the 16 valve bits, kind of amalgamation of bits, Frankenstein bits, so that we can get obviously the covers on here and here, but we obviously couldn't do that without the mount. So we can get on with that in the meantime. Boom! Yay! Boom! So what's happening here is the mount here, the two holes there are good. Now you'll notice we've put a little slot in this one. Now we have a bolt in there, but can you just notice it's got a ground off tip? Well, it's not ground off, is it? The head's been ground off, but we've now got a tip on it. Now what we're going to do there is just going to cut a plate as close as to sort of this shape, this sort of teardrop shape, that'll go round and cover as much of that flat section of mount as possible, so that it can clamp down on the maximum surface that's possible, because obviously we are losing a little bit there. So we're just going to do that now, and I'll then show you what I've got. This is that bolt I was just on about, and if you can see that hopefully clear enough. Basically just cut a bolt to the size of your thread. Obviously get a bolt that's the right thread, cut it to the right size, and then put grind a little pin sort of prick on the end, and you put it in the hole. And once you've made your plate, you smack your plate onto that, and that gives you a centre punch for where to drill the hole. So we'll do that now. And that's the result of what we have. So a piece of 6mm steel plate. We've cut it to that kind of weird teardrop sort of shape that just follows the contour of the mount there, a little bit elliptical, and then it bolts nicely on. And I'm quite happy with that. I'm tempted to try and make some sort of spacer to go in there to stop it moving forwards and back, but with the two dowels in place I can't really see that happening. I think that is going to be plenty strong enough. It's certainly going to, well, it's going to hold most of the weight, and that weight is mostly vertical. Obviously there's torque twist, but that's going to be handled with the bottom mount. So I'm pretty pleased with that, especially there's only one bolt the other end, and we're going to have the manifold and turbo hanging over the gearbox on that end. So I think it's going to be just great. I'm pretty confident in it. Maybe you'll think otherwise, but this hasn't cost me anything, it's a bit of time, and it would have meant sending this away, getting it welded and back again. That's more money and time than I haven't got. So now we can move on to the covers. Now we've got this in place. I think I just mentioned earlier that I need to make some covers for this out of the DW12 ones that I've got, the DW10 ones, because we need the 16 valve covers at the top, but the 8 valve covers at the bottom. Then we can put the bottom pulley on, and then we can work out the auxiliary system, and the gaskets arrive. Thank you, Alex, which we'll talk about maybe the next episode if I've not got time in this one, for the coolant block on the side there, because my gasket was not happy and didn't come in the headset kit. That's the gasket for that block on the side. So we'll do that in a second. But that's happy. This will just all come off now. I'll clean up the bolts. We'll give everything a lick of paint, make it all look a bit tidier, and sort the covers out. And obviously then bolt this on with possibly some thread lock, especially in those two there, just to make them extra sure they're not going to come undone. Winning boost.